Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is the 23rd day of April 2025 and welcome to our show today. We're going to start out this day with Liberty Essentials. Bill is not here today. He had to travel to parts unknown, and so we're on today with Ralph and Karen, and I think you'll like our show today because we're going to be talking about all sorts of things that perhaps are in the works or are coming on. Our second hour is Greg Martini is going to be on with We the People Notices. And the whole group that seems to be working with Dave Jose is very, very interesting to me. These people are incredibly educated on the process, and we're all learning together from each other. So I like bringing them on and seeing what everybody else is doing. And he's going to give us an update because I think that we're seeing some actual motion in that direction in order to instruct our public functionaries and try to bring this republic back into line with what it's supposed to be. It's not a democracy. That is a failed IQ test when people keep calling it a democracy because that is mob rule. So in the meantime, I'm going to bring Ralph and Karen on this morning and say, hey guys, how you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's happening in Ralph and Karen world?
Well, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but the tree trimmers are back and they're working across the road. So I think they're probably going to hit my property today.
Ah, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it depends on your perspective. This company is owned by a neighbor just down the road. So he has the pressure of everybody not really happy with him because they're cutting down people's trees. I'm not happy because they cut my neighbor's trees down, and my neighbor's trees provide shade for my hydrangeas.
Oh,
and now I've got to come up with an alternative. And that's going to cost me a little bit of money if I go with climbing roses is one idea. So I don't know about that, but they're going to chop another white pine, which white pines, I like white pines. They're our state tree. And some other trees and some little ones, and they're going to trim a couple of our oaks, which might be a good thing because I asked if they would, happen to trim some of the dead stuff that's not necessarily in the way of the power lines. And man said he usually does. So if they do that, that'll be doing us a favor, but they sure didn't do me a favor when they dropped the shade for 17 of my hydrangeas.
Yeah,
in my conspiracy plot. My conspiracy plot is lacking shade right now.
Well, that's not good. So
on the upside, with fewer white pines around, it gives you more spaces to be able to plant the native currants that were wiped out about a century ago.
Yeah, there's some interesting background about currants because currants and white pines don't work together very well. So they had to make a choice between having the state tree being a white pine or eliminating a food source, and that's exactly what they chose to do, is eliminate the currants, which were native to Michigan. So once again, everything the government touches goes to crap. No matter what it is, it goes to total crap.
Yep, great source of all kinds of nutrients that are hard to get from other plants.
So, Ralph,
well, I would like to complain, but they are responsible for giving us electricity, and until we can provide our own, you kind of have to deal with them chopping some trees down.
Oh, there you go.
There we are.
There's a bit of a, I don't know, a rub there. So
they're trying to keep us safe.
Yeah. Ralph, what's going on with you this morning?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just been busy with work.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Well, I wanted to bring something up because I had a few, I don't know, let's just say little bits of information that seemed to cross my path. And I'm going to read what I wrote in my Telegram post because I think it's kind of interesting, with the Pope passing. And you know what? I'm not going to cut him any slack because I think when we can see what was going on there with the Red Shoe Club and such, and people don't want to acknowledge what's been happening with the child trafficking across the globe, there's some real big issues there. And we can't gloss over it and say, oh, he's the Pope. I mean, if anyone around me that I cared for or that I thought I had a good relationship, fell off the integrity wagon, I would literally burn them to the ground. I really would. When there's something as egregious as a human trafficking, child trafficking, the connections to the Clintons and the Vatican, all of this stuff. Okay. We can't cut anyone any slack or give them a protected status. We need to find the receipts. We need to see what's going on there. And we need to absolutely hold people that are doing crimes like this accountable. Okay. So anyhow, a couple of pieces of information came across yesterday. Something tells me that the lack of action that we're seeing out there might lead to a pretty bumpy road ahead. The neutered and complicit political parties, the corporate greed and control, the complicit puppets in office are leading up to a conflict we can't avoid. Unfortunate at this point, nothing can stop what's coming unless God provides a miracle. You better turn to God immediately, because I'm not trying to fearmonger anybody. It's actually a call to action in reality land. Something this land of illusions needs. So that was my post. And then I posted "Gimme Shelter" by the Rolling Stones, because something tells me that we're gonna have a few problems going forward. And a stupid person hides their head in a hole or in the sand. Smart people get themselves prepared for anything, right? It's not fear-mongering. We should be prepared all the time. Doesn't matter what it is. We need to be educating ourselves as well as preparing for the people around us. So the drumbeats kind of that we're hearing is the Insurrection Act of 1807. And it's a U.S. federal law that allows the president to deploy military forces domestically to suppress insurrections, rebellions, domestic violence, or enforce federal law when local authorities cannot or will not do so. Its implications are significant and multifaceted, affecting legal, political, and social spheres. The act grants the president broad unilateral authority to deploy federal troops or nationalize state militias without requiring congressional approval in certain situations. Invoking the act could allow a president to bypass state or local governments to address perceived threats, potential overriding local law enforcement or government structures. So this, I have a feeling that that while people like to say, oh no, it's abuse, I'm just going to be the one out here to maybe point out the elephant in the room. And that would be that the judges that are out there refusing to enforce the law as it is, instead of making judicial decisions in the civil action jurisdiction that we have going on, because we don't have a true Department of Justice and or a system at this point in time. It is the Department of Injustice, housing, I'm going to say it just like I've said it about the political parties, foreign terrorists who have taken foreign money and been placed by Soros, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Down the line, we're going to have to get a handle on this, because these people refuse to stick to the law and instead are playing legal monopoly on the ability to get things done. How long are we going to sit here and put up with this nonsense? And I mean, it's nonsense of saying, oh, we can't deport them, they're an illegal. Let's give them every bit of slack. Let's give them legal defense. Let's give them this, that, and the other thing. When if we just went back to the Constitution, they came into this nation illegally. They go back. They can figure it out on how to come back here legally. But they're, as President Trump said, it's not exactly that they're giving us their best and their brightest here. We need a situation. And unfortunately, we honestly have been overrun with people that they've let out of their prisons and shipped them up here in a intentional effort to destroy the United States of America. So I can't say that I think that this is going to be a wonderful thing for us to go through, but I kind of think it's going to be a necessary thing in order to, get rid of the threat. Because a couple days ago, I saw where there was a group of gang members that were transporting. They were transporting all sorts of weaponry. So they're here. what are you going to do if the judges won't deal with this situation? So I got to say that any creative solution to this problem is going to probably need to be, that if it's lawful, be workable right now.
Or when you find a gang member that was being housed in a judge's house and had
Yeah.
to have a warrant executed on the judge. I
Yeah,
don't remember what state that was, but
I think that was Colorado.
could be. It was somewhere out west.
Yeah. And so when you have judges that are engaging in this behavior, I don't even actually know why we need to be soft pawing these judges or anybody else. If they're not upholding the law, they're committing treason. Get them for treason. They're treasonous. If they're housing it, why why go through those channels? There is other legal ways of addressing this, and I think we need to do that. So what say you guys? Nothing.
I was waiting for Ralph. I thought he had an opinion on the subject.
No, I was going to just go try and find more details on something in a minute.
Well, Denise is saying, go watch Lee Merritt and Courtney's podcast on the Pope already being dead. Glitches tell us people might already be dead. He dies the day of Hitler's birthday, LOL. Typo morning. People might already be dead. Pope probably died the day Trump told the Gold. Even though John Tater said we can't legally deport citizens, we need to arrest them for treason. A little trip to Gitmo might change some young and old traitors' ideology. And yet, did the J6ers get due process? Absolutely not. Why is it that all of this advantage is going to everyone except for American citizens? I don't agree with it. It's absolutely patently wrong. And we need to bring this nation back into what it was supposed to be as a republic. The people that come here and that are not citizens, they don't even have the same rights we have. I'm sorry, they don't. You want to come in here legally, we'll have a discussion, and we want people, we want to work with people. It's not that we're anti having people come into the nation, but I'm certainly anti-criminal behavior, and I'm anti going against the law and destroying the Constitution and being invaded by an invading army that's being funded by globalist sources to destroy the nation. And how long do we have to wait for this? I mean, they're killing people every single day.
Well, and you listen to, some of the people that are the strongest anti-illegal immigration people, the voices that speak the loudest on that, are generally the ones who are recent legal immigrants.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because they understand why those guardrails are there.
Well, you either have this nation is not a nation of people or opinions. It's a nation of laws. And once we lose that, we lose everything. Since 2010, North Carolina's foreign-born population has grown 32%, outpacing the national average, largely due to illegal and legal immigration via the H-1B visas in tech hubs like Research Triangle Park. Many newcomers settle in Wake and Mecklenburg counties. I think that's pretty funny. She put it in a good way. So yeah, there's a real problem there to see. And when you've got somebody who's illegal, does that mean that they're even paying taxes? How long are they on the non-entitlements? Because I don't believe that word entitlements. There's no entitlement in this world. You should work for what you have. If you don't, you're forcing somebody else to work for you to take care of you. I really do believe that. I never plan to retire, because that to me is just, I don't intend to be a drag on anyone. And so my whole plan is to work as long as I can until I can't walk, move, get out of bed, or anything. There's no way that I will go into that sort of just sit on my behind and playing golf all day. Seems kind of like a lack of purpose. I'm sure we can come up with projects,
So I found that judge. It looks like it was in New Mexico, and shortly after he got caught, he resigned from being a judge.
Well,
He
that's a
resigned
good
before
start.
then.
How about we prosecute him? And that, you know, I think all of us are waiting for prosecutions, but I do think that President Trump, he's not a dumb guy. He's a smart guy. He's not going to go and just throw everything, you know, out there and say, hey, this is what we're doing, so that they can all get in front of us and shoot us in the back as we're walking away. New Mexico judge resigns after alleged TDA member arrested in his home. Are you kidding me?
John Fabricatori is the former director of the ICE field office in Denver, and John's with me now. And good day to you. How far do we have to go with this group, do you think, so far? Well, I mean, just seeing that almost 400 TDA members have been arrested now by, since Trump took office. This is incredible. It just leads us into seeing how bad the border actually got under President Biden and where we are today with having to arrest these guys in our streets. John, is it more difficult to...
Okay, so Fox has got something here. Let's go to another one and see what else we have, because you know how Fox... I don't really like Fox, just so everybody knows. I think it's nothing more than anything else, but a source is a source. Here we go.
Or a non-source.
It's a non-source. Yeah. Okay, here we go. And the judge's name is New Mexico judge named Jose Joel Cano resigns after Christian Ortega Lopez, a suspected gang member, was arrested at his home. Ortega Lopez, a 23-year-old from Venezuela, was charged with unlawful possession of firearms. Now, I'm sorry that this judge is absolutely in the wrong here. How much clearer can we make this for people? The arrest happened during a joint operation between the Justice Department, Immigration, Customs, I refuse to call it Justice Department, and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, another unconstitutional agency, I might add. However, Judge Cano announced his resignation March 3, effective March 21, following the arrest. Why wasn't he removed on March 3? Bam, there's the question. Why are we giving people enough time to sit in those offices? If they did something like this, there needs to be some quick action on this. I don't get that at all. Okay.
Yeah, and the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, should be a combined store to buy those things.
Well, it's as per Norton versus Shelby County, it's an unconstitutional agency, like most of them are. So they don't exist. They only exist because we allowed them to exist, even though I kind of like the fact that they went after this guy. So the de facto is kind of working, but it's not actually the way it's supposed to work. So if they're fighting with us, they're not fighting against us at this point in time. We just got to work our way through this. So there you go. Kind of a crazy thing. There was another one that I posted on my X account, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but talk about Liberty Essentials coming to the actual reality land rather than the illusions that are out there. There's a post I put out there by a person their handle is Pepe's grandma. Let me grab this a minute and I'll read just some of this, because this is kind of nonsense. Big nonsense. Hang on here. It was put out by Bad Kitty Was Kicked Off. Pepe's grandma. She has actually left X because X is in fact censoring. And it's censoring me. I know it's censoring because I got a whole page of things that they're not allowing me to post, as well as my good friend, Jonathan Cagle, who constantly loses his account for just telling the truth, and he reincarnates under another name. But the fact that they're still kicking people off and censoring, I can't explain this, but this was actually a really good thread. If you go to my X account, you'll see it. CrowdStrike 2024 election protection and its connections to today's CrowdStrike outages. Now, this was posted on July 19th, 24. So here we go. We had my point on this is that we have had this evidence that they've been cheating for a long, long time. And who controls it? The corporatocracy. Our people, the people that are the puppets in office, as well as the banksters, and the political parties. And I'm going to go back to bash on these political parties because I went and spoke to a group in Kalamazoo yesterday. They were the ones that the Kalamazoo GOP kicked out of the GOP and got rid of everybody that wouldn't vote with basically, from what I see, the establishment. It's a real problem. The political parties are a domestic and foreign threat at this point. And I'm not going to vary from this because they've taken domestic and foreign money. And I'm going to tell you what, they have this state of Michigan so screwed up that there's no fixing it as long as they're in play. There is no fixing it because we have a group of people, and I told the people that were there yesterday, and it was a really good meeting. I mean, everybody seemed to be really, really pretty well receptive to what I had to say, because I don't play games with people at all. If you guys haven't seen that yet, you haven't been on here for more than 2 seconds, but I don't play games with people. And there was actually a couple people there from the Jural Assembly. And the one guy said, "Yeah, I remember you in Dorr. That's when I met you the last time." And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "Well, I just know when somebody outright lies on social media, which I posted the lie and what was said after the fact. It was, I believe, Destry said that I cowardly ran from the room when and Karen was there. I left the room because I was taking my ham radio test for my license. I couldn't stay. And besides that, the behavior of the people in the room was such a disgrace. I don't waste my time with idiots. I'm sorry. If people are going to sit there and fight like a bunch of idiots, I'm like, I'll do it myself. I'll go and do something myself that's productive, but I will not be run around by the village idiots that refuse to get along. You don't get anything done that way. And that's exactly what the political parties have done in the state of Michigan, besides being funded by the same sources that are funding the judges. It's all dark money. And somebody brought up something about the Atlantic Council. And guess who was the chairman of the Republican Party before the big divisive fight between Christina Caramo and Hoekstra and whatever else was going on? And if anybody thinks that wasn't intentional, you know what? I got a bridge to sell you, okay? Hoekstra, the traitor that signed the Patriot Act twice, who should be tried for treason, and then the previous chair, Ron Weiser, who was a member of the Atlantic Council. Let this sink in. Who was attached to Burisma Oil, who had donations to Biden. I don't know how we can make this any clearer to people what's going on here, but I'm going to say it. Anybody that stays with these political parties is a captured asset and probably could be charged with complicity in their crimes for standing together. So there's the shot again across the bow. Anyhow, CrowdStrike 24. And why is it that nobody from these parties is saying anything? They constantly are going back and forth with let's fundraise and have one woohoo great big party of popularity contest and never get anybody in there that does anything or actually stands with President Trump in any measurable way, and or the people, and or the Constitution, and or fight things like, SB 111, which we've been talking about and such. Jim Runstead did a post that pointed out how wrong this was. So I'll give him kudos. I'll give kudos where kudos are due. Okay. But going back to the elections, why have they not just brought the house down on this? The evidence is incredible. The CrowdStrike update appears to be linked to the Fallon Sensor Project. The Fallon system is part of CrowdStrike security tools and can block attacks on systems according to the company. Another important point is that CrowdStrike is globally involved in elections, and its working partnership with the WEF, World Economic Forum, linked Global Cyber Alliance. Do we really want to be here? CISA works with CIS and utilizes CrowdStrike for election protection. CIS shares the same address as the Global Cyber Alliance. CrowdStrike is partnered with GCA, Global Cyber Alliance. We have gone global, folks, and this shouldn't be. Now Falcon is part of the entire election security package. CrowdStrike Services provides the best practice frameworks needed to assess and enhance cybersecurity maturity levels for election systems to protect the integrity of voting process, in quotes, and the sanctity of the democratic, ding ding, in quotes, institutions under which we continue to thrive. These services include compromise assets, cybersecurity maturity asset, security program in depth, and Falcon complete security as a service. Notice, and this is from Pepe's grandma, I did notice that Indiana doesn't allow Falcon Complete on election systems, but feel free to check every state. There are multiple Falcon products here. This area has room for more research. OCTA is involved with CrowdStrike protection too. Mark Rogers of the CTI League Files is VP of Cybersecurity Strategy for OCTA. Together, CrowdStrike and OCTA combine powerful insights into user and device context into a single view that eliminates security blind spots. Well, that's kind of a problem, because here's the reporting on CrowdStrike, Falcon, and today's worldwide internet outage on Microsoft Windows systems. The outages resulted in millions being lost by organizations impacted who have had to halt their operations or stop business. This is a really long post, and I really would like to have everyone check this post out, because we have all the evidence we need to go after these global criminals who have destroyed our elections, our First Amendment rights, our rights to the voice, and it's a problem. Oh, and we will forgive Ralph for this dad joke, but let that sink in for a while.
Makes me think of Elon bringing the sink into X.
You got to have room for puns once in a while.
Oh, you're a punny guy.
Yeah, the election security thing is one thing that really kind of struck me about the conversation you had a couple of days ago on here about the ranked choice voting, is that almost all of the concerns that they brought up are ones that we can't just sit idle on, because those concerns also apply to first past the post and our problems that we have in our election systems right now. So we can't look at it and say, okay, well, we're safe from all these threats because we don't have ranked choice voting right now. That's not the case. Those threats are still there. They're still active and are still currently being taken advantage of in our current system, and we still need to fix those.
Yeah, the argument needs to go to the base structure on rather than the no matter what we have, if we don't fix these issues, we're dead.
If you don't have a trustworthy voting system, it doesn't matter what style of voting system it is, if it's still untrustworthy.
Exactly.
And for IT purposes, you have, for anything that needs actual security, you generally want to try and have it air gapped, where you don't have things directly connected to the internet if you want any kind of security on things. I mean, that's one of the things that they, like for nuclear plants, you want to have all your control systems not attached to the internet, because any security vulnerability can be rapidly taken advantage of when it's connected to the internet. And why are the voting systems not air gapped like this, to the point where we need to have these cloud-based security companies securing the voting systems?
I met a guy yesterday who actually they did a paper ballot vote. They didn't use the machines in his township where he was. That was really, really interesting talking to him. And it said it didn't cost that. It didn't cost any money, really. He said it was incredibly efficient. No, and I think they were the only ones in the state of Michigan, according to him, that did it this way. And they didn't destroy the election records like Sharon Olson didn't either, which was a really, really good thing. But it was an interesting point to talk to him about. So I think I'm going to try to have him and the clerk on to talk about what they did, how they did it, and such. But going back to ranked choice voting, we're supposed to have one vote per person. When you go to rank choice, the problem is you have more than one vote per person, and they just kind of like they move them around. If we can't even audit what we have right now, how could you possibly audit a mess like ranked choice?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways of doing voting systems out there, and
is my audio bad by chance?
Your
No,
audio
yours is
isn't.
fine.
No, sounds like mine might be, but all I can think of is it might be just automatic volume control or something like that. But
You're
now
still
you're muted.
There's a problem with your audio, Donna.
Still muted.
There, how's that? Is that
There you go.
looks like I just had a sign that said my microphone was unplugged. I'm like, okay, clearly there's a problem. So go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways of doing voting systems. You know, you've got ranked choice, instant runoff. You've got first past the post. There's a whole bunch of open source cryptographic proof systems, and there's some drumbeats I've heard of using homomorphic encryption for voting systems and how powerful that could be. And I'm of the opinion that homomorphic encryption is a pretty cool technology, but it shouldn't be anywhere near our voting systems, because once you get into technology that ends up being that advanced to be able to even run the numbers, then it becomes impossible for the average person to be able to audit it themselves, or to do it without technology. You know, at least if you have paper ballots. I mean, even with ranked choice voting, if they were publishing all of the ballots anonymously, but if they published all of the ballots for the public, you could still audit that yourself. You could run it in an Excel spreadsheet outside of all the tabulators and all of the algorithms and do it all yourself. But it has to be counted in public.
Yes.
Voting in private, counting in public. That's the only way for any of these voting systems to work, is for them to be independently auditable.
Well, that's the argument right there to knock out the machines, because machines are counting in private. You can't see them counted. It
Yep.
just happens within the machine. So there's no way to accomplish that. So it's breaking the law just by virtue of that fact alone.
Yeah.
So that really should be the argument, because it's a constitution issue.
And it doesn't break any of the principles of anonymity that you're supposed to have in our current voting system, if you have all of the ballots published as the votes on the ballots, not linked to the person's name. Because one of the reasons for the anonymity in voting is so that you can't have coercion for the voters, right? You can still accomplish that by publishing the content of the ballot, not linked to the person's name, and then it's auditable by the general public if all of that information is actually out there, so that the counting can be done not only by our public officials, but verified by the people.
Well, here's another thing. The little barcodes on the side of the ballots. I completely believe that they're tracking those ballots and attaching them anyway to the voter, no matter what they say. There's way too much. There's way too many ways that they can do that. And I believe there's something, and I've heard that from other people too.
Well, they can do that just by the ballot ID numbers.
Sure.
You know, they take down your application to vote, and that has the ballot ID number on it, and that gets filed, you know, separately from the ballot, and that's supposed to preserve the anonymity aspect of it, which is all well and good as long as you keep the application to votes separate from the ballots themselves. You could recombine those if you wanted to. And there is, at this point, no guarantee that they're not doing that because it's being counted in private. But as long as you keep those two boxes separated from each other, then it means that you can publish all of that ballot data without having it linked to the actual people involved.
I think if people got in behind the scenes and saw the information that they have collected on every single one of us, that the temperature of this nation would dramatically increase, of being really angry about what they know. They know everything about us. I saw something last week about routers and other electronics in our houses being able to be used to do image capture within our homes.
Oh,
Now,
yeah, that technology has been around since, I think, at least the early 2000s, where it was shown in as a public thing, which means they probably had it for a while before that. But basically, it acts as it's a little bit similar to the way that backscatter X-ray machines work in airports, in that it uses the Wi-Fi as effectively like a radio light source. And Wi-Fi is designed to go through walls, right? So all you have to do is have a Wi-Fi spectrum image sensor, and you can use it as basically an X-ray of the building without having to enter it, without having to go on the property, anything like that.
Which means that we're kind of like, not only with our cell phones, but stuff like that, they're quartering troops in our homes.
Yeah, and
it's a problem.
And then you've got the problem too of, you know, going back to the airport scanners. I don't like them because you look at the corruption involved in the original procurement process of that, and that was a mess. How many kickbacks were were not necessarily monetary kickbacks even, but yeah, you get this in, we'll get you a job here. That kind of thing that was never really disclosed, but was pretty obvious if you looked at the procurement specs for that. And then the amount of radiation, ionizing radiation, that we exposed TSA workers to, all of that, the whole thing was just absolutely a mess. And that's not even counting the privacy aspects of it, because you've got these machines that are designed to take 3D scans basically of everyone that goes through there, and they say they don't save them. But if that's the case, why did they put in the procurement specs that they have to be able to save the images out? And now they've got everyone going through there where you've already been validated using your state issued ID, and now they're taking a 3D scan of you in a surrender pose. You don't think they could use that for all kinds of different purposes in the future?
Well, they did it with 9/11, where they had people in the windows. I think it was, I don't know how many weeks before it was, but they were taking pictures from the inside of people that were standing in the windows of the towers. So they had all kinds of footage, and they actually had helicopters flying around taking the pictures from the outside too. So that to me seems a little suspect. All right, so we're doing Liberty Essentials. At least let me get one quote in here on liberty from founding fathers having to do with elections. Okay, here's your quote. Samuel Adams: "Let each citizen remember at the moment he is offering his vote that he is executing one of the most solemn trusts in human society, for which he is accountable to God and his country."
Good quote.
I thought so too. It's a great quote, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you go. Well, this whole thing with the surveillance state that we're in, which is really a concern for me. This is one of the biggest reasons why I'm not a J.D. Vance fan. He came from Peter Thiel, Palantir, and the surveillance state of our health records there. It's a real problem for me. And I'm having a hard time getting past that, even though I hear the headlines. Headlines sound great, kinda, but I can't get past the facts of his background. It's a real problem for me.
I gotta tell you, I was driving, I don't know, last week, and I saw a license plate that said Vance 2028.
I'm wondering
if somebody spent the money for that. It was actual license plate, not a sticker.
I got this feeling that President Trump doesn't really like him. I just have that feeling, sort of like Pence. I don't think he really.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And I think that this is one of those things that I just have this feeling that he doesn't really like him. But President Trump is smart enough to keep his enemies closer. But it kind of is interesting if he just say we're mapping out game theory here, okay? What if he knows how bad J.D. Vance is, and that's why he's talking about a third term? Wouldn't that be interesting? He's a smart guy. All right, let's see what you brought up.
Well, I think a lot of what Trump says is meant to trigger people into thinking and talking about things. So if you don't have Trump and you don't care for Vance, who have you got? The Republican Party has nobody. The Democrat Party has nobody that the public care for right now.
Mr. Kuratsu in the military-industrial complex got a problem, guys. Let's see who they're going to push on us as our only choice, according to these criminal enterprises, which are the parties.
Well, you have to. What I see is kind of like in Michigan. There's nobody that I would want to vote for who is qualified, who has integrity, except for Donna. And if Donna doesn't announce, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm sure not going to vote for anybody else. It might be one of those situations where I don't vote. Because why would I vote for John James?
Oh, absolutely continue to vote. I mean, this last election, there were about, I would say, almost half the races where the candidates were so bad that I did a write-in for no confidence.
Yeah.
Well, Here you go. I'm going to say, as the chairman of the Constitution Party, that I'm pretty sure we're going to have a real good candidate.
Well, I sure hope we do. And this is what I'm talking about with the third Trump term, or like who's going to come around. Well, you might have to see the public start to say, let's look around us. Who is qualified that we've never heard of before? Who's qualified, instead of who's a party member?
Yes.
Instead of looking at it from a perspective of the grassroots put up person, because that's not what grassroots is. I've been in that party. I know what that slate system is about. Well, it's who's popular and who's willing. We scraped them up from the bottom of the barrel sometimes. But who's the guy or gal that, because it doesn't matter to me if it's a woman or not, that is fully qualified, but sitting back and waiting for the day when politics is no longer politics as usual. Trump is changing that up. And maybe there's somebody that's going, maybe I could do that. I'm certainly qualified for that job. And I've never really liked the two-party system. Maybe I just go as an independent. Let's talk about it with my friends like Donna did. There's somebody out there who's thinking about it. And I think that's what Trump does sometimes is he's talking early to, well, is it a good idea? You have to take the name Trump out of the picture because I think Trump is a representative. He's not a person, a man anymore. It's just he's an image, he's a philosophy, he's a whatever you want to call it. But he doesn't want to run again. Just like I know Donna would rather shovel horse caca. Just say it that way. You don't want to run.
A million things I would rather do.
Yeah,
but if a job
he would not.
Done, you have to do it.
But he's got to put it out there to get people talking about it. And he said something yesterday. I posted about this morning. Giving new mothers $5,000 to promote people to have children. And I'm like, I know a lot of scumbags in the world who would happily get pregnant in order to get $5,000. And do I want my tax dollars used that way? Now, if we still have taxes and we have people using this tax system, a tax credit of $5,000 would make sense to me because that's not taking money away from the people. But to give people $5,000 just to have kids, I'm like, none of this is lawful. None of this is wise. Trump said it. He's trying to say, hey, let's talk about having more children here. We need to have more children because he knows that is important to the future success of America. So the public has to look at that and go, well, that's a stupid idea, President Trump. We're going to have to come up with something else. Well, geniuses, get off your butt and figure out another way of doing it because your president may not have the right answer on this. He does that all the time.
I think there's a lot of things.
Like this, having a kid isn't like having a puppy. Okay, $5,000 isn't going to get you through the first 6 months, and then what? Now we've got people that had a child for money. Isn't that like this is like farming human beings kind of crap? And it's not constitutional, and this is absurd. The government has no business being in this.
I think to a certain extent, though, a lot of things, too, that he says are actually to try and get the mainstream media and opposition to any of the ideas to be able to rile them up against an idea that they might otherwise come up with. Now, this may not be an example of that, but I think there's a lot of the things that he says that are basically trying to get ahead of somebody else's stupid idea and get it out into the public so that they have to take an opposition view because of who said it.
Yeah.
So I think almost everything that we're seeing out there at this point is a psyop and a game being played.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Don't take anything at face value because
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of it is just basically either manipulating the public in one way or another and not what it actually is.
Okay, let's check this video out.
Do you know what HIPAA is? What is HIPAA?
I don't even know. I don't know. What?
You might have heard the word HIPAA in the context of medical data privacy. You've probably signed a HIPAA form at your doctor's office and been told that HIPAA will protect you.
Most people think that HIPAA means that their medical information, their medical records are kept private.
Right, HIPAA. It's starting to ring a bell. The HIPAA privacy rule. But what if I told you that HIPAA doesn't protect your privacy at all, and your medical data is being shared all over the place with millions of entities, and this is explicitly permitted by the law itself?
A lot of people think that HIPAA actually protects their medical information. It doesn't.
Oh boy, so this is our first video in a series exploring medical privacy, and it's a doozy. First of all, it's really difficult to get any transparency into the data sharing that goes on in the medical world. But I chatted with 3 people who have managed to get a peek behind the surgical curtain of the behemoth health data industry. There's Twyla Brace, a nurse and president of a non-profit that fights for medical privacy, Rob Frommer, senior attorney with a pro bono law firm that is currently fighting the state of New Jersey for unlawful infant medical data collection, and Keith Smith, co-founder of the Surgery Center of Oklahoma and a practicing anesthesiologist. What I learned from them and from diving deep into this rabbit hole really blew my mind. Essentially, the state of medical privacy is a mess. Throughout this series, we explore electronic health records, their vulnerabilities to hacking, and how they share our sensitive health data with government entities and all kinds of other third parties. We uncover how medical practitioners are financially incentivized to collect excess information from you to feed this data machine. We talk about the warehouses of baby DNA being collected at birth in almost all states in the USA without parent consent. No, this isn't a conspiracy theory. There have already been lawsuits against Texas, Minnesota, Michigan, and New Jersey for this practice. And in this video, we'll focus on HIPAA, understanding what HIPAA actually is and how it came to allow our data to be shared without us even knowing. We'll specifically look at how we've been tricked into thinking we have privacy and steps we can take to reclaim control of our medical data. Let's begin by understanding the history.
I think this is a great video. I'll post this to my channel because I think we really need to explore and expose all of this illusion in the land of illusions. I should play that song. It was Genesis song. We need to realize that it's all illusion right now. Our elections are illusion. Our healthcare is illusion. The food supply is illusion. We're in, and also there you go. I'm going to put in a little plug in here for everybody. Start growing some food of your own, because I think that if the Insurrection Act is actually invoked, we may have a little bit of a problem, because there's going to be some supply line instability there. So you should probably plan accordingly.
If you're in Michigan, start growing potatoes. You can't stop potatoes from growing here. Get those puppies in the ground, and you will never find all the potatoes, and they will end up coming up next year, whether you want them to or not, even if they're in with your peppers.
If you're in an apartment, you can get the potato bags and throw some soil in it, throw some potatoes in it. They will grow. They have like there's a little bag, and there's like a little bag door to the side, so you can pull them out as they're growing, because potatoes grow, they mound up, and they grow up over the lower levels. So that's why you have to keep covering them with dirt, because you can't eat green potatoes. It's a nightshade and it's poisonous. So you want to take the ones off the bottom, they'll drop down, and then they'll grow some more and they'll drop down and such. That's not a bad way to do it.
Wonderful food. Easy to grow, thrives here in Michigan, and all kinds of nutrients in potatoes.
Potassium and all that. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put that video, talk amongst yourselves just for a minute.
Yeah, I've watched that whole video before. It's a great video, and really, Naomi Brockwell has actually got quite a few very good analyses on privacy in a lot of different places.
Well, what I like about it is the fact that you have a knack for providing good sources every time. So if a source comes from Ralph, it's got to be good.
Yeah, she covers, despite her accent, her most of what she covers tends to be fairly American centric. So most of what she does is actually applicable here. Some of it is based in international privacy stuff too, and a lot of it is about big tech's invasion of our privacy. So, but yeah, potatoes are great, and they come up like crazy. Tomatoes, really anything in the nightshade family. Get some of those puppies in the ground, because man, you get those going, and also pumpkin. you get pumpkin anywhere around there, better hope you get all of the seeds collected, or you're going to have pumpkins everywhere next year.
Lettuce, go buy like a pound of lettuce seeds of any type, the greens, and just take, even if you have a little bit of dirt outside, you can grow them in pots, you can grow whatever. Just sprinkle a few seeds on there, get them wet, and guess what? You're gonna have lettuce and lots of it. Don't do a lot of lettuce seeds. Like, start out with a few of them. That's pretty much all you're gonna need. Leaf lettuce grows the quickest, the fastest. So you can grow a salad pretty quickly that way, and just take your little knife and cut it off at the ground and throw some more seeds on it, and voila, you've got food. So those are all there. There's so many things you can grow so easily. I mean, hopefully everybody knows a farmer or two out there, because that's going to be your hope if the supply lines go down. But would be nice if everybody had a few chickens in their backyard. Just saying, chicken increasing.
And if you don't know a farmer, be one. If you do know a farmer, be one anyway.
There's something called spin farming that I believe that it's a crazy way to farm, because you can feed, I don't know, there's been estimates of how many thousands of people that can be fed off of a half-acre farm, which seems to me to be a little crazy. However, if you're layering things and using aquaponics as well, as so that you're layering your food production, and they're symbiotic, so they help each other. So like intercropping is, or companion planting, that sort of thing, which I know quite a bit about. You can grow a lot of food, a whole lot of food in a very small space. We should talk about that next time. I'm not going to be on Saturday. I'm going to be gone Friday, but we should talk about the intercropping and how to do that, as well as planting towers in your own home. And you can grow a ton of food inside your own home. So that's cool. I'm going to read a couple things in the chat. Glorious, from Denise. Glorious Constitutional Republic morning, y'all. And yes, glorious Constitutional morning, Republic morning to you too, Denise. I wrote a Macomb clerk for Leany. I told him he's only in charge of commerce. We don't need driver's license, and he needed to inform his pal, Secretary of State Benson, to read the Constitution. I called him out as a public functionary, and he sent me back a link to the new driver's license ID. He'll probably send Pete Lucido after me. Well, hope you're prepared, Denise. I know you can argue it pretty well. We don't need ranked choice voting. Let the citizens work polls, do the counting, paper ballots, one day vote. No drop boxes, no mailboxes, period. Your feed was temporary loss. Sorry about the loss of the feed there, guys. Wipe the chat clean for her. Sorry about that. So I'll just read them. It was obvious that Vance was shoved in at the last minute by Teal. Trump had Rick Scott and others. Then overnight, all that changed. Did you happen to see the long list of people running for governor? It's ridiculous. John James is a derp. Yes, Ascension bought out by Henry Ford Hospital. All my data was moved to Henry Ford, and I received emails from Henry Ford. So now my health is shared with Henry Ford and Corwell as well. We're being forced to join another hospital portal. It's crazy. A total illusion. I agree. There's no privacy. If you think that the entire world, including all of intelligence, the intelligence community, the clowns in America, as well as the FBI and the rest of them, don't have all your information, I got a lot of news for you. They all have it. They got a bunch of young kids in there spending full time hacking everything that you have ever done. And they've got advanced tools. I mean, I've seen the open source intelligence tools that are out there and worked with them a little bit. And what they have is, so when you start putting into the mix what they have at their disposal, it should be shocking. So yes, they are watching you walk around in your house with your underwear on. Or less.
Except they're probably seeing through the underwear too. So on the note of the Real ID stuff, because that's been in the news a lot lately, that has been in the works for years, and they keep postponing the deadline on that because it's kind of a mess the way that it works. And I would encourage everyone in here to, if you have objections with it, look into the possibility of having your driver's license be continue to be a standard state-issued license that does not comply with Real ID, because that is an option that you can choose. And as long as you have some other form of federal identification, such as a passport, which you can get with a convenient card that you can carry around for federal identification purposes, then you have a federal identification card and you have a state identification card. And it does not then participate in the Real ID interstate data sharing system that they've got set up to be able to siphon data off wherever the heck they want.
Well, there you go. So any other last words here, guys? I'm going to bring Greg Martini in next. This guy's so impressive. I love talking to him, and he has a lot of information. We're going to continue to have Greg on, and We the People notices and how that's going for updates, as well as to learn some of the process here. I really would like to know everything about everything out there, but it's impossible. So we have to get together with people that are experts in the fields that we perhaps don't know as much about. And that's what I like talking about with everybody that comes on here. Everybody that comes on here knows more than me in a bazillion subjects. It's fantastic. And we learn more from each other, and I always appreciate people's time. So any last words, Karen and Ralphie?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the concept of everything being an illusion. And something someone said in the chat earlier about the Pope probably dying sometime previous. That all that kind of stuff, I posted about it, I think last night. Like, you can get caught up in, JFK is alive, or Michael Jackson is alive, or who was arrested. Hillary was arrested and she's in Gitmo and we're seeing a fake double and all that kind of stuff. There's so much of it. And so, what color tie was JD wearing? That kind of stuff. What does it mean with Q? This phrase was similar to something that Trump had said, and it means this. Be careful with that stuff, because some of it is just really a distraction. What does it mean to you? What does it help you do? If it doesn't help you do anything, if it doesn't help you see the world in truth, then set it aside. You can take note of it. Oh, well, that's kind of interesting. That's a circumstantial evidence, perhaps. Or maybe it's just nothing. Maybe it's actually coincidence that J.D. Vance wore a tie when he went to see the Pope and he chose yellow that day. It may not have anything to do with anything. Does it carry any meaning to you in your personal life? That's the kind of thing that I hope people will focus on, because that stuff, and there are a lot of people who focus on it. Some of those people who focus on it a lot are doing it intentionally to sway your mind and influence you to focus on nonsense rather than focus on what are they really trying to hide from you, dissuade you from noticing. What is the truth? I know that the president is not the real president. I've seen multiple doubles of him. That bothers me. I have to set it aside and go, okay, well, what are they trying to do with us? What are they trying to teach us? What is the end game result of all of this? I get it. But I keep in the back of my mind, I'm seeking the truth. And I'm not going to talk about all of the fake stuff all the time, except for the fact that I'm frustrated with the fake stuff because I'm tired of the hypocrisy. So I get frustrated with that, and I guess I'll yield.
Most of it's nonsense that they're just using to keep us busy right now, keep people sort of engaged, and some of it is to teach us stuff. So, Ralph, what's your last words here?
Question everything, including your ability to question everything.
Yeah.
Be okay with changing if more information comes forward. So here we go. I got to play this. This is really a fun video. Anyhow, I can't play too much of it because I'll get a YouTube strike. But I do think this is funny.
Goody two shoes. Betty by Bo's time again. Good night, honey.
Sweet dreams, dear.
There's too many men, too many people, making too many problems.
There you go. And I'm not going to get the YouTube strike, but you get it. So we will be right back, and with Greg Martini. Hang on, and this is going to be a fun show today. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being on. Love you both.
Love ya.
Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the 23rd day of April, 2025. Now I'm going to bring my next guest on, Greg Martini, right away, and we're going to get right at this. How you doing? How you doing, Greg?
Wonderful. How are you?
Good. I enjoyed our show last week. That was a lot of fun, and good comments from the people in your group that you're working with, because this is a very educated group of people who are taking others to task. So how did you like the video?
Loved it.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I think this is amazing. Let me play some more now and we'll get a strike. And that's exactly what it is. They're trying to keep us confused so we don't know what to focus on. And unfortunately, as human beings, we like to chase fireflies. Something catches our attention. That's one of the first lessons you learn as being a marketing person, which my background is in corporate strategy and marketing, is that you interrupt people. You drop something that catches their attention. Boom. It doesn't matter what it is. They'll always look at it and lose focus or move to something else. And that's exactly what they're doing. Everything they're doing follows the psychological inclinations of human beings, including, this is something else that Denise said, how many people are running for governor right now in Michigan that have announced is insanity. They're all chosen by the parties. You don't get to run or get a seat at the table unless they've already vetted you, or they'll just like attack you like they did, say, President Trump or myself. With we found actually a name of somebody who spent 5.5, was paid and worked with $5.5 million to tank my run in 22 to get me kicked off the Republican Party. This is going to be fun to get this out here, because I am going to throw the names out and they're not going to get away from what they've done. So anyhow, what are we talking about today? Give us a good update on the notices. It sounds like you have great news to share.
Well, let me start by correcting a couple of errors that I made last week.
Okay.
The members of our group and we the people notices, and that we gather daily to help guide and educate our republic and our trustees and our servants. The first one I want to correct is the name of Diane Laporte Klump, who is a senior member and a phenomenally educated person, and she's returned our country and the people in our group to fundamental principles. And it goes back to what you were just talking about. We have to go back and study fundamental principles. Our founding fathers said frequent recurrence to fundamental principles is the only way we can save and keep our republic. And don't get caught up in this chaos. Karen said it well. I mean, there's so much. They want to distract us. And you're right. From a marketing standpoint, it's pretty easy to distract Americans today. We've done it with television. We've done it with news. It's all fake. I mean, Donald says it repeatedly. Fake news, fake news, fake news. And we have hoaxes and these conspiracy theories. They want to throw people that are educated into a conspiracy theory or sovereign citizens or all these other crazy buckets and classes. Why? So they can silence you. The
Keep us
more we
fighting.
go back to fundamental principles in our constitutions, you know, we took our constitutions out of the schools. We need to put them back. Idaho and other states, Oklahoma, are attempting to put the studying of our constitutions back into the schools. So
I'm there as the chairman of the Constitution Party in Michigan, which is goes under U.S. Taxpayers Party, only because Benson won't let us change our name because she's trying to suppress our identity of being the affiliate with the National Party. If we don't have that basis in the highest law of the land, everything else goes to pot after that. It just goes to crap.
But
so we have
perverted it.
What's
They
that?
perverted it with you and everyone else because they've created this two-party system, and unless you're one of the two parties, it's nearly impossible. I remember when Ross Perot ran for president, and he tried to do it independently, and he was telling truth. You go back and watch his videos from decades ago, and you will see truth. And we have just perverted the entire country into believing, oh, I've got to be a Republican or I've got to be a Democrat. Well, you know what? I don't care who my servants are as long as they're following the Constitution.
And they're honest. They have the
rights.
integrity and honesty. These political parties need to be abolished because they are a domestic and a foreign threat, both at the same time, to our nation, because they're taking the dark money and the PAC money, and that all comes from the corporatocracy. It doesn't come from we the people. It doesn't come as we don't have a voice with them. They're the
fastest way. And the
What's that?
fastest way to do that is to go back and get Summer Cook's books for your children. Get the education that we need from the beginning. Get the education from Jaron Jackson, from our teacher, David Jose. He has, I mean, thousands of free video hours and education. Understand what it means to operate publicly versus privately. What is commerce? What is not commerce? These are pretty simple things. What is liberty? I mean, I was talking to another member this morning, Dwight Stahl, in our group, and Dwight reminded me to make sure we educate. Go back and read the definition of liberty. What is liberty for us? What are our rights? How are they meant to be protected? And the only way that we can possibly do that is the Supreme Court has flipped. The Supreme Court is giving us back our country, but they can only do their part. They can only be judicial, and they can't do we the people's job. We the people have to assemble. We have to learn. We have to understand the fundamental principles. And when we do, we will recognize. I mean, right now, the Supreme Court has made some decisions that go against Donald Trump, and people are up in arms. And I kind of heard in the first part of this podcast, unless you understand the fundamental principles, you don't quite get what the Supreme Court is doing. And what they're doing and what they're doing for those aliens that have come across our border and we've allowed them in our country, they are entitled to due process of law. And why are they entitled to that? Because they're human beings from God, not because man gave them a card that was a Social Security card. God made them. Who let them into the country? We literally opened our borders and welcomed them as our guest. And the minute you do that, they have rights. What are those rights? They might be limited, but they are rights. And listen to Judge Gorsuch. Listen to his words. Listen to the decisions. And when you see what he's doing, he's trying to give us back our republic. But if we, the people, don't educate ourselves, then we get up in arms because, oh my goodness, they're giving those illegal aliens rights. But again, it goes back to the maxims of law. God gives us our rights.
I think this too, though, the discussion here on this is that do you consider them our guests, or are they an invading army? because I think we could have some discussions on that too, because when you look at people who come in here under their own power, and the only way you can determine that is look at the funding sources that have brought them in, and or the organizations which qualify as human trafficking, such as Lutheran services, Catholic services, all of these that have the money behind them that are being paid for, say, like they're being paid. It looks like a crime syndicate or criminal network. They didn't just come here as an individual. And therein is where I have a problem with it, because and I accept any correction anybody wants to give me or more education, but this was an organized effort, an invasion of our nation through crime syndicates, foreign governments, as well as, this wasn't just like,
Donna, can I ask you a question then?
Yes.
Why are we not doing redress of grievance against our trustees that let them walk through the border?
I agree. I agree with everything you have to say. We have to have a plan.
Our group is sending them notices. We need everybody in this country to read our notices, to read our affidavits, to read what we are publishing and filing with our trustees, because what you're telling me is it's not the people that are walking across the border. It's the people that we elected and put into office that are our servants that are not following the Constitution. They're not following the law of our land. It's the maxims of law. It's what we have from God. And unless we hold what trustee have, we're going after all these aliens. And believe me, I don't want to promote, I'm totally against all the pedophilia and all the other crimes that are being, perpetrated on Americans in this country. And we should round them up for those crimes. I have no problem with any of that. Put them in prison. But you know what? They're God's people as well. They're entitled. As much as I hate it, we don't want to put a single person in prison that's innocent. We let 10 guilty people go free to protect that one person that you take his liberty from him. And in order to do that, we need to look at our trustees.
To your point, the kids, I've had plenty of people on the show here that shows the conditions of the children and the people who are being used as pawns by this criminal effort to invade our nation. They're using them as pawns to create chaos, amongst other things. The conditions that these people are in, and I've covered this at length, is absolutely horrific. The entire situation needs to be resolved. And so even
it will be resolved through education only, and it will be resolved through God's word
and action. But there's got to be an action too.
We the people, we are the trust protectors. We have to protect that trust. We have to protect that social compact. We have to understand we have rights, and part of our rights comes responsibilities, and those responsibilities are on top for us to protect our trust. And in order to do that, I don't have to wait for the next election. I mean, I know elections are important, but they're insignificant as it relates to redress of grievance against our trustees that are committing crimes against all of us. All of us. I mean, 90% of their decisions are criminal against us, and they're treasonous. So we need to understand what that means, and we need to understand how do we get redress of grievance. And that's where Jaron Jackson has five videos on grand juries. We, the people, need direct access to the grand juries so we can literally hold our servants accountable to protect our rights. That's the only reason we have government, is to protect our rights from foreign and domestic invasion. So let's go to the maxims of law and let's look at what Weissman says. He collected 1,600 maxims of law. This little bitty paperback book is so powerful. It's an easy read. I mean, everyone should have a copy of this. Everyone in this country. We should teach this in our schools. But you know what? You know who doesn't want this in our schools? The people that created this administrative state in Department of Education and all these other administrative agencies. And the only way to do it is for we, the people, to assemble, to educate each other for the common good, and to send our administrators, our trustees, our servants, we send them the notices and affidavits that are required to get them to respond to us. So
you said you had some good updates on what you're doing right now. So let's talk about that for a second. So, and I, like I said, I don't have all the answers to it, but I sure am sick of what I'm seeing out there. And it's a good thing to stand together and help each other out in this regard.
Well, and let me start by saying I certainly don't have all the answers either. We have gone down such a road for 150 years where knowledge has been hidden, truth has been hidden, God's word has been hidden. Separation of church and state has taken over our country. So I don't have all the answers either. God does, and I will tell you, He's given us people. He's given us lots of resources now that we didn't have years ago. Dave Jose and Jaron Jackson and people like him are just so valuable to our country. We need more of them, and we need people to become educated. Summer Cook has done that. She has created these books. The Supreme Court is our friend right now. And Donald Trump's first term is powerful. Those justices that he put on the court, I mean, we are getting 9-0 decisions that is notifying federal judges all over this country. They don't have immunity. They don't have immunity for all these, what Judge Gorsuch calls fake judges. We have 90%. You have a 90+% chance of being in front of a fake judge in this country and given no due process of law. The only way we have to protect our liberty interest and our property interest is due process of law, not due process that they give you. They perverted the definition of due process of law. Go back to the very beginning. Go back to Black Law's 4th. Read what due process is. It is the fundamental common law. It is the maxims of law. If you don't have a case against you where whoever's suing you has cited the maxims, has signed under oath or affirmation an affidavit against you, then they've got you in what's called a statutory case law court. The entire system is based upon case law and judges making law, which is unconstitutional. But if we all tacitly acquiesce and say, I have to live in this tyranny. It's the government. They control me. These courts control me. They don't control us. God controls us. So right now, the Supreme Court has moved, and the Supreme Court has moved in a powerful way. Jaron Jackson is in a fight in Oklahoma, and that fight has taken him to a point where federal judges dismissed his cases, dismissed them because of some procedural issue. That's a statute. And they dismissed those cases. Jaron is fighting his case on constitutional grounds only, because that's all he needs to do. He is one of the people. He is sui juris, and he is fighting the case. So his petition and Dave's petition and notices to the Supreme Court of the United States demanded that the 10th Circuit Court in Oklahoma take his case, take his appeal, which is, I mean, people need to learn what that means. And the purpose of this is to begin to educate people on what the law is in our land. And we are a republic. We are the kings and queens. These are our servants. And right now, our justice system has been perverted, and it's been taking kids. It's been taking, assets and property at will. And if we don't learn the law, if we don't learn the Constitution, and we don't listen to what Judge Gorsuch is saying, and I mean truly listen and read these decisions, and not everybody has to. What we have to do, though, is We read it, we create notices, we create affidavits, and those notices need to be, they're simple. They're 1-2 page notices. We're not trying to inundate our trustees. I mean, it's not your fault, my parents' fault that they put us into this fake system. And in order to get out, we have to educate our trustees. And we can do that. We don't have to wait for elections. And if that trustee that we notice and broadly diffuse that knowledge, not just to the person that is committing the tyranny against us, but everyone, governors and judges and sheriffs, we educate them one notice at a time. The power of those notices, once they're put on notice that they're violating the constitutional rights of we the people, once they are informed of that, now they are guilty of treason. They are guilty of, trespassing on our rights. And that is a serious crime. So all of these judges in America have been put on notice, and they're being put on notice right now by me communicating with you. But we've sent, thousands of judges notices in this country, and they've been put on notice that what they're doing is trampling on the people's rights. We need due process of law. We need Article 3 constitutional courts, so that if someone like me is going to walk into a courtroom, right now, I walk into an Article 1 courtroom, that judge is a fake judge. He has no jurisdiction over me. Supreme Court just told us that. It's about jurisdiction. We need to stand up for our jurisdiction and our rights. And if we don't, if I just hire an attorney and walk into that courtroom and I give that attorney the power, my power of attorney, to make decisions on behalf of me using civil and criminal procedures of law, I've just tacitly acquiesced to their system.
I think it's
so, tacitly acquiesce.
To your point, is that people have to be educated on what to do instead of chasing these fireflies all the time. We're going to come back to that in a meaningful act that in the pen is more powerful than anything. So we've got to be able to express ourselves, know what we're talking about, but we have to do something. And I think what you guys are doing is amazing. How many notices are you aware of that have been sent out so far to the judges? I mean, how many?
Hundreds of thousands. I mean, this is a massive movement. Massive. I mean, it's an education process, but we're still a very small fraction of 330 million people in this country.
How many people are involved in it approximately? Just because I kind of want to know. I mean, everybody that I've met within the groups that you're working with are just incredibly intelligent. I love Summer. I love Diane and Craig and several other people I've talked to. So it's a learning process for me. I just got to tell you, because that really came within my purview maybe about a year and a half ago or so, where I started watching some things. I reached out to Dave Jose on X and got a response from him, that sort of thing. But it wasn't one, because I look at so many different things like everybody does. You know, my focus is giving people a voice, not standing with a lot of different people that are fighting for good things. But how many people?
I'm going to tell you something that is very difficult, because I think my personality is very much like yours. I'm ADD. I have all of those flaws. I'm human. I did the same thing. I chased all of these different things, which God was setting me up for this moment in time. God was setting me up to learn the real law through David Jose, not the fake law that's taught at institutions. Unfortunately, it's not the attorney's fault. I feel, in fact, Dave Jose said on a Spaces last night, and it's so profound. I feel bad for these attorneys. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars learning what is fake law, what is not real law. And I hate to say it, but if they don't repent and they don't learn the real law, the Supreme Court is giving us real law now. They are giving us writs back. They're giving us writs of habeas corpus back that are real writs of habeas corpus, not statutory habeas corpus that have been perverted by our legislatures. I mean, people we elected. Why did we let them do it? We let them do it because we had our head in the sand. They distracted us with television and news and fights over dumb things at the same time that they were transcribing the law to fit their tyranny. And what we've done in this country is made a pyramid, and we have transferred $100 trillion of wealth to criminals, our trustees. And I can prove it, but that's not where I want to go. Where I want to go is I want to save the country. I want to save my kids. I want to save their kids and my great-great-grandkids. And I want to educate. And the only way we're going to do that is go back and have people like Summer Cook. You know, we've removed all the truth and fact in the schools. I mean, our kids aren't learning, they're being indoctrinated. And that case yesterday that we listened to at the Supreme Court in our morning We the People notices, they're being indoctrinated, and people need to find the way to fight it. You know how they want you to fight it? They want you to hire an attorney. They want you to try to file a case, and they'll give you remedy in 20 years. We don't need that. Dave Jose has taught us. He has taught me more than anyone, and Jaron Jackson and Diane and Dwight and Susan and I mean, I can go on. Barbie, there's Craig, there's thousands of us. I hate bringing names up because
you're going to forget somebody.
I'm going to leave hundreds of people out. I have learned from so many people, and this is you have a powerful platform. I like that you've set it up the right way so our voice cannot be suppressed. It's one of the reasons that I was attracted to even come on, because this is not me. I'm not a teacher. I'm not an educator. I have learned through Dave, and I have prayed that God's words will come through me so that I can help educate and guide people to the truth. And that the truth is our Constitution. We form government. We reserved our rights from government. In order for us to protect that, we now have, because of Donald Trump, and I'm not saying everything Trump is doing, because I'm as frustrated with Trump as a lot of other people, and not because of why you would probably think. I mean, he made commitments that he was going to, they are our servants. He made commitments to reveal. I mean, where are the Epstein files? We want to see them. Not because I want to, prosecute anyone. I want to see what trustees that we put in office, and I know there's lots of them, are guilty of treason against this country. And I want grand juries. I mean, the Department of Justice, the Deputy Attorney General wrote a letter to all Department of Justice employees, all of them, and said, no more American Bar Association events at all. You can't go to them. You can't pay for them out of government money. You can't. I mean, this is the American Bar Association. It's the biggest. It's the biggest lawyer program in the country, and yet you've got the Department of Justice, which, by the way, are all lawyers, most of them, telling their employees no communication with the American Bar Association. No, you can't go to their events. You can't register for them. You can't speak at them. You can't write for them. I mean, why are they doing that? But they're going halfway. And the Senate went halfway. The Senate wrote a letter last month to the president of the American Bar Association. This is public information, so everybody can get a copy of the letter. It was signed by our senators, including Ted Cruz, who is an attorney and practiced at the Supreme Court. And it basically calls the American Bar Association a criminal organization, especially when you read the footnotes of that letter. I mean, these are powerful things, and they're helping we the people. But you know what we haven't gotten yet? We haven't put people in prison that are continuing to take our rights from us. And we need redress of grievance. We need grand juries. The Supreme Court can't give it to us. You know who can? Donald Trump. Grand juries are underneath Pam Bondi. Where is Pam Bondi giving me direct access to a grand jury, which constitutionally I should have direct access by going down to my sheriff? I shouldn't have to go to her. But right now, she's scared my sheriff so much and put him under this hoax, this fake system. And he, even though he took an oath to uphold my Constitution, not theirs, and he's living in their world, I should be able to go to my sheriff and give him one of my affidavits under penalty of perjury, which I'm happy to do tomorrow. And he seat a grand jury for me because my trustees are trampling my rights. And that affidavit, that's what we call in our group a court of record. A court is not four walls and a judge. A court is my court. A court of record is my oath or affirmation. That is court. That is a court of record. Go back to Black Laws Fourth and read the definition of court of record. And we can do some of these things on your show. I just wanted to put the basis out there so that people can be educated and understand the difference of a court of equity, which is what all these Article 1 courts are. They're contract courts. They sucked us in by signing contracts with our government that gave up our rights and accepted their privileges and committed me to walk into one of their courts of equity and follow the magistrate. Well, you know what the Supreme Court has done? And they're doing it weekly now for us. You know, they decided some cases this week, historical. You know, the Supreme Court typically will take, 75 or 80 cases a year, and then they'll hear the cases during the 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock hour. And then they'll take, a month to congregate and come out with their opinions. But you know what they don't do? They don't give me redress of grievance. They don't give me the ability to file a writ of habeas corpus directly with them and give me, as the king, as the sovereign in my country, they don't give me the ability to protect myself against the tyranny of my government. They've just given it to me. They are accepting writs now. And again, that's a whole nother session that we can go into later. But it's those types of things. I am tired of doctrines, the Chevron doctrine, and all these other doctrines. I mean, the comedy doctrine. What? I don't have to go through 5 years of a court, lower court, in order to get remedy for them trampling my rights. I should be able to go directly to the federal district court or the Supreme Court of the United States directly. They've just given me the ability to do it, and they are doing it. And they're hearing those cases now that they had never heard before. Those are called writs of mandamus. I mean, correct the lower courts. The problem is the Chevron doctrine's been overturned for a while now. Why are the lower courts still operating? Why are the attorneys and the district attorneys still going into those courtrooms and taking people's property and liberty from them without due process of law? It's because they don't know any better. We need to learn what is due process of law. And the problem is you can't go to an attorney and find it out. I have lots of attorney friends. I love them. I love their families. They're God's people. They have been taught the law wrong. And we have acquiesced to this case law. And I mean, and they openly admit it now. I mean, our judicial branch was never meant to make law, but yet that's what statutory, case law is. That's what case law history is. Oh, this judge said this. They judge shop to and they appoint purposely judges that are creating this fake case law. It's fake. It's not, no statute, no code. Those are meant for our trustees. They don't apply to you. Well, you know what? They don't sue anybody in this country without citing a statute or a code, which makes literally every single one of those cases unconstitutional. if there's not a maxim cited in their case against you, if there's not a signed oath or affirmation from whoever the plaintiff is in the case, then that case is not a case. It's not a case against me. It's a case against the creation that they have. That's why Judge Gorsuch says to the people and overruled in that book. I mean, these things take a while to grasp, but that book is powerful because he tells you they're fake judges. They dress up in robes. They act like judges. They're magistrates. They're magistrates. They're private entities. They're private courts. That's not court. A court of record is Jaron Jackson's affidavit under penalty of perjury, where he literally could go to prison if he lies in his affidavit. The thing I know factually, he won't lie. It's truth. It's law. And it's real law. It's the common law. It's God's law. It's the maxims of law. In every one of our notices, we cite this book. We cite one of the maxims or multiple maxims in this book in every notice. And in order to learn, you've got to slow down. You've got to go back. You've got to study. You've got to understand. You've got to watch Dave Jose's free webinars on public versus private. What does that mean? What does that mean? We talked about that briefly last time, but it's so critically important. When you understand, I operate in the private. I don't operate in the public. I've got every right to go in the public anytime I choose, but I operate my life in the private. But we have not been taught this. 150 years ago, that was in the schools. In 1868, as I said on the last show, and I made a mistake on the date, Harvard University said, we're no longer going to teach fundamental common law. We're no longer going to teach maxims of law. We're no longer going to teach.
Okay, guys, first definition.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're no longer going to teach the real law of the land. You know what we're going to teach? The hoax, the statutes and codes. You know why they wanted to teach that? Because every administrative agency created their own court, and they've merged all three branches together, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial, into one, and they can make whatever law they want against you. That's why they can sue Donald Trump, and he didn't stand on his fundamental God-given rights. He walked into their courtroom with attorneys that represented him and never, ever once argued their jurisdiction. What jurisdiction do they truly have over him as a man, as sui juris, as one of the people? They never argued that. I've had lots of cases. I've never had an attorney ever argue jurisdiction of the court. You know why? Because the minute I hired that attorney, he's part of the same entity, and they don't operate by the law of the land.
What's really shocking in Michigan is our 1963 Constitution was illegally, unlawfully installed. They did not have the vote according to the number of votes. They didn't have the percentages.
But you know what they
snuck? You know what they snuck in there? You know what they snuck in there?
What?
They snuck in that in order to be a judge, you had to be a practicing attorney for 5 years.
It's, by the way, they can do that. They can do that legally. They can't do it constitutionally. And you have to understand the difference of what that means. But you know what? In order for us as we the people to go back, we can overturn that. In fact, that Constitution is null and void on its face. When you look at the maxims, I don't have to follow any law that infringes on my right. And that organic act that they signed and went into, they converted their state, your state, and you were the last one to convert. Every other state did the same thing. But you know what's beautiful? The Supreme Court has said fundamental common law is the law of the land. And no attorney in America even knows what it is.
I want to play this real quick. It's the video you're talking about between private or public and private. Got a minute. This is Dave
As
Jose.
first definition, public, adjective, pertaining to a state, nation, or whole community, proceeding from, relating to, or affecting the whole body of people or an entire community. Now watch this deeply. Open to all, notorious, common to all or many, general, open to common use. Now, guys, what I want you to realize is this is what happens when you're dealing with a state. The people can own the things that are common to all. But when you have your home, it is private. When you are inside the car minding your own business, it's private. When you are with your church people, you are managing and handling your private business if you are doing it the right way. So guys, you got to understand that the government officials many times will interject themselves into the people's private business because they have not taught us the difference. This is Dave Jose, and we're giving you the realest remedy in the nation.
There you go. There's Dave.
And let me add one more thing, because Dave is the greatest teacher of the law in America. There is no one else. And I don't expect everybody in the country to learn, but I do hope and pray that everyone repents and understands, in order for them to be free and free men, the only way they're going to do it, all you have to do is listen to Dave's public versus private, and then Dave helps you, because you can literally, through him, create your own PMA, which is a private membership association, which is exactly what the American Bar Association is, although I never found that out from any attorney I've been involved with. I found it out from Dave Jose. And then I researched it, and he's 100% correct. They are a PMA. Well, why are we not PMAs? So Dave, you can create, and he will create your PMA for you, and he will begin to educate you on how you can operate in the private and not the public.
Is there a video specifically for that in creating a PMA by Dave Jose?
There is, and you can go to his stand store, but don't do that until you watch the public versus private video and then go to the stand store. It's a process for you to become educated, to understand what your rights are first. And then once you understand public versus private, you can go to his stand store and he will set up a PMA, and then you become part of our community, which is growing rapidly. And he will set that PMA up, and now you have protection against the tyranny of your trustees. And once they know that you're part of the assembly, once we are assembling peacefully and we are educating peacefully, I'm willing to debate it with any attorney. I mean, anyone on the planet, because what I have is truth. Everything David says, he will show you where it is written. His method is real simple. God said, "It is written," when he faced the devil in the desert. Everything Dave says, it is written, and he shows you where it's written, and he walks you through it, and we read it, and we analyze it, and we understand it as a assembly, as we the people. No movement in America has been that way until now. And we have the greatest opportunity in the world to take our country back for we the people and our Father, and do it the right way. But unless you understand, God gives us our rights. And I truly don't care what religion you are. That's the beauty. When God gave you the rights, he gave you the right of free will. And you can choose which direction and what you want to learn and what you want to believe. But in America, we were built off of the Word of God. We were built off of the King James Bible. The Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers, which you can go. We've got a wonderful woman that does a spaces every Wednesday night to teach people the fundamental constitutions and the history of this nation. And Kitty, and I can get you her link as well. She is in our We the People Assembly. Yeah, that's perfect. That's the Stand Store. And you can go in there and you can register for a PMA. You can register to take his law classes. You can register to take any one of his assembly classes. He has thousands of hours of video. It took me years to go through the education process that he gave us. And then Jaron Jackson is the same way. Jaron has livinglocal.church, and Jaron puts out videos almost every week. He had a little bit of a lull, but he's back because now the Supreme Court gave him remedy. I have friends that said, "Oh, you will never get the Supreme Court to listen to you. You're not an attorney. You can't have them react." Well, Jaron's not an attorney, and neither is Dave Jose, and neither am I. But you know what? We have gotten the Supreme Court to listen to us. And why? Because we, the people, made our government for us to protect our rights. And when they're not doing it, we have one place to go. And unfortunately, they're the ones that took away our Article 3 courts in America. And they converted them to Article 1 courts. Those are fake courts. And if I have to file my case directly with the Supreme Court, that's what I'm going to do. And Jaron now has the ability to file his appeals, which effectively are, unrebutted affidavits. That is a court of record. And what those judges don't realize is they are already guilty. You know why? You can't go back and say, "Oh, the district attorney told me not to respond to your affidavit." Most of our affidavits go unrebutted. You know why? They can't rebut it. All we do is cite the law. All we do is cite the law in America and our rights and the maxims and the constitutional SCOTUS decisions that support what we're telling you. Everything we do is very straightforward.
Let's go back to some foundations of what people, besides just going and watching the videos, let's talk about some principles that we can help educate people on, and specifics. Can we do some specifics?
Sure, we can do specifics.
Okay.
And I think I really this week just wanted to do it one more time by myself, and then I want to bring Diane, if she'll come, and Dwight, and maybe a couple of others, because I think when we have the knowledge, again, I'm not a teacher. I'm doing this because God has called me and directed me to speak the truth. And I learned the truth through my group. So when you understand operating in the private versus the public, what does that mean? And that is specific. And what does it mean to protect my rights? And how is that actually done? If they want to infringe my government, which is my trustees, which report to me, want to infringe on my rights, they can only do it one way and one way only. And that's through due process of law. In due process of law, as long as you look at due process prior to the 6th edition of Black Law's Dictionary, gives me the right to walk into an Article 3 court where I run the courtroom and the jury of my peers decides the law and the facts. So I get to present all of my evidence in a court of record. And in that court of record, right now, I can't do that. Right now, in order for me to do that in one of their fake courts, I have to go in, and there is a potential process that we can get for those courts to acquiesce, but it's not easy. They're more likely to either throw out the case against me or throw my case out, which is what they did in Jaron's case. We need that remedy. We need that right. Supreme Court has said that is the Constitution. So understanding what it means for me to have my freedom back. I lived in tyranny for 60 years of my life. I didn't know it. I didn't know why. I just knew that the statutes and codes controlled my cases. My attorneys controlled it. My accountants controlled it. Now I control it. And now I'm not afraid if they come to my front door because I'm operating in the private, not the public. And I have a PMA. And if they try to infringe on my rights, once they come to my door and they understand that I'm operating in the private, they have no jurisdiction over me. And that's why when Dave forms your PMA, he takes certain steps so that you can be protected. And I don't want to infringe because that's what he teaches. That's what he's done for me. And it's a very simple process, but you truly have to understand the Constitution and your rights in order to be able to take that next step.
So I've got a couple questions that come right off the bat. Okay.
Yep.
The first question is if you know the Constitution, wouldn't the Constitution act as your protection right there? What's the advantage of a PMA? The
assembly, the fact that knowing the Constitution, and when you say knowing the Constitution, to make sure we're on the same page, everybody speaks of the Constitution. Every lawyer I've ever met speaks about one Constitution, the federal Constitution. That's not where my rights originate from. So the very first thing you have to learn is what Constitution am I going to read? And why am I going to read that Constitution? There are 51 constitutions in America. And I live in the state of Georgia. And that Constitution gives me 29 constitutional rights. But it also gives me the rights of every other state constitution in America. So we are, as one of the people, we have the benefit of this country growing, and I can use different rights that are cited in constitutions of, Virginia, of Arizona, of Texas, of any state. So these are things we have to learn.
The reciprocity.
It's the
reciprocity.
It is understanding who gave you your rights. And it's not my government. My government didn't give me my rights. And it's very clearly stated in my state constitution who gave me my rights. And it's God.
Well, I think it's important to ask questions to clarify things, just because I'm sure everybody out there has got lots of questions, just like honestly, I do. I've got a lot of questions about things, and I like to hear the justification of why people go in the directions that they go into. That's why that they're in as the question. And I think that's a healthy process to go through, is to understand the underlying premise of why people choose one direction or another. So it's a very interesting subject, and I really applaud all of you guys for all the work you're doing out there and what you guys are getting done. And I look forward to honestly learning more about it. I think it's going to be a good process, and I appreciate every single person out there. So do you have anywhere else you want to go with this today?
No, I think if we're going to do it again next week, I think we should do it, and I should bring a couple other people on, and we can talk. We want to educate all of we the people, all of God's people that live in America, that educate them on where they got their rights from, how they are free men and women, and how we can basically manage our servants to uphold what they've taken an oath to uphold. And whether they've taken the oath, whether they've signed it, because we find a lot of them haven't signed it, what they have done is they've taken compensation. And the minute they took compensation, they've agreed to that oath because we elected them for that position. So we control our trustees. We've never done it. I don't think everybody, when Dave Jose first started filing these notices and affidavits, everybody said it's a hoax. You'll never get the Supreme Court to move. You'll never get the president to move. You'll never get Congress to move. Well, you know what? They're moving, and we've got lots of them that are moving in our favor. In Washington, we've got lots of people that understand those notices are real. Those are coming from we the people sui juris. We are their boss. We are the king and the queens. And if they don't follow the true law of the land, they're committing treason. Do they want to take that risk? Do they want to keep committing treason against the people? I don't think they really do. At least the ones that understand. And Donald Trump understands. Now, I don't know that Pam Bondi understands. If she did understand, she might give us control of the grand juries back. She might let our sheriffs seat a grand jury so that we, the people, can do our job, which is protect our trust and go after our trustees. Because in Georgia, we have some incredibly rogue county commissioners, incredibly rogue. And unless you understand, I mean, we can only do so much, but the minute we can actually go after them for treason, which is what they're doing, it's called maladministration. They're not living up to my Constitution. They're trampling my rights, and they're not educating the people. And they give us 3 minutes to talk at their county commissioners meeting. What is that? We are their boss. Why do I only get 3 minutes? If I want to take an hour, give me an hour. Give me as long as I need, because you are not following the Constitution and my rights and protecting them. That's your only job. That is your only job. Well, they think their only job is to make money for them and their friends. That's what they think.
Yeah, every time the money gets involved in stuff, I've always got an issue with that, just because
it's evil.
Because it's the first step in evaluating what you're actually looking at as a structure and where they're taking it to. I think that's a real big concern. And I don't know. It's like you look at how much money they make when they get into office and such, and it is a huge concern. So, well, I look forward to next week. Let's see what we're going to do. We probably should decide on some sort of a direction and topic, and have an outcome for it, which would be good. So that let's look into that next week. And I'm looking forward to anyone who's going to be coming on with you, and I'll let everybody else out there know what we're going to be doing next week.
All right.
So let's say a prayer, and then we'll go on. Do you want to pray, or do you want me to?
You can.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for leading us through paths and through the fog of war that we're in right now. We know that there's a lot of confusion out there. There's been a lot of things that have led us astray in many, many directions. And also the clarity that's there if we just stay with it, be calm, and continue to listen and be educated on things, and be willing to change if it's merited in order to do what your will for our lives is. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for us. We know that the future is going to change a little bit. As I said earlier in the show, I had some pretty good indications from some other people who are significantly involved that we're going to be going through a few bumpy times ahead of us. That's not something that we need to fear, not going in the fear-mongering mode, but knowing that we do have to be in reality land instead of the land of illusion, and that you'll walk us through that in power and strength, that there's no threat that needs to alarm us. And also, we can't look back and mourn what we've lost, like Sarah or like Lot's wife did. We ask that you keep ourselves focused on you, that we continue to go forward and focus on the bright future ahead of us as you lead us, not into any person's will or anything, but having our focus on you, leading us out of the things that have been set against this whole world to take us captive. We're so grateful for your graciousness and your time and your patience and everything else that you do for us. The world is a beautiful place which you created for us to live on. And we want to be your stewards here, the people taking care of things, not just the in one direction, but in every direction, in the direction of taking care of our animals, being grateful for the spring that's come again, another reliable sign that you're here, that repeats the fact that the flowers come up and the food comes up, and that there are seasons of life. It's incredible. It's an incredible symphony that you've created for us. And we've gotten a little off base. We know that, but we also know that our faith is in you and that you will bring us back to what we need to do. You are our Redeemer. You're our provider. You're our protector. And we love you so very much. Thank you for being a great friend to us. And we want to be a friend to you. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So there we go. Well, boys and girls, we're part of the show where we go to ding, 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 ding. My 2022 protest still going on. Please go to brandenburggovernor.com because I'm the best non-conceder who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I would like to talk to the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, about this. Wearing cowboy boots. We'll see who wears them better. Hands down, I got this. Okay. But we'll be talking about lots of other things too. So with that said, you know what? Remember to question everything and have your questions answered. This is an important process to go through, no matter who it is. I tell people all the time, don't trust me. Don't trust Greg. Don't trust Ralph or Karen. You have to check these things out for yourself, and you have to bring the receipts, because honestly, that's how we got taken captive in the first place, was being told not to trust. You can hear, and we've heard it over and over again, trust but verify. No, make people prove themselves. If they can't prove out what they bring forward, you've got a problem. If they can prove it out and they do bring the receipts and the proof, you got a pretty good indication that this is someone you should listen to. So I was at a group yesterday, and it was a really fun time. And then I told people, I said, well, I've been this and doing a non-stuff for many, many years, working behind the scenes, talking to people behind the scenes that really know what's going on, and making them prove themselves. And my question to them yesterday was, every single one of us has been programmed. We've all been programmed. There's not one of us alive who hasn't been subject to a certain degree of programming. That's just the way it is. And we're going to have to come to terms with it and not think that we haven't been. Once we get that realization, the question is, and the question I asked the group yesterday, I said, do you want me to softball you, or do you want me to tell you the truth and bring receipts for it? The resounding answer in the room, which I was really pleasantly surprised by, was tell us the truth and don't hold back. So I got into, somebody was pushing petitions for Axe My Tax. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a fan at all of this. And I told them the reasons why. And it was really amazing to see that when the receipts were brought forward and the truth was brought forward, everybody was kind of like, oh my gosh, I get it. So we're going to continue to go forward and bring the truth forward on all of these issues. So, and I appreciate every single person out there who's done just an incredible amount of work in their area of expertise. The people of We the People notices, bringing this forward so that we can learn from them and learn what they have learned. And people like Ralph, who is an expert in cybersecurity. You will find no one who is more educated and has worked in an area more than him. I can guarantee you that. Or Karen in common law. Karen is an expert in common law as well as several other subjects, and she undersells herself quite often, or the other people that we bring on here. But listen with an open mind. Don't be afraid to question, because I have lots of questions on everything, and it's a process. As Greg said, to his point, it is a process of going through and of learning. The people that God brings before us and that we can stand with, it's an incredible amount of brain trust that is out there in lots and lots and lots of areas. There, in my expertise, it's a symphony, just like we have, of all of us coming together with our experiences, our experience, our hours of studying and such. And so I truly like to give everybody a chance to talk and learn from them. And I think that that's where the strength is in this. I can guarantee you I will never be as experienced in these areas as anyone that comes on my show. And that's good. That's good, because we're bringing people on that have that experience and that knowledge for us to sort through and listen to. And if there's merit there, that's where we run together. So I'm thankful for everything that you guys have done, and I'm very much looking forward to learning more from you in the coming weeks. And I'm looking forward to bringing other people on that have their experiences and their knowledge that they bring to the table within your organization and everything. I mean, I think it makes a very strong, compelling argument to start some action in that direction. So with that said, everybody, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Thank you for being here with us today. And I'll be back on tomorrow with Pastor Dave Scarlett, who has very strong ties to President Trump, as well as a group that's coming on that's fighting the DNR. This is a huge and of grave concern to me. We can't even start to hold our public officials, our public functionaries to a standard unless we know the underlying problem. The problem with Axe My Tax is that they are claiming ownership of our land. They're trying to steal our land. And of course, they want to get out from underneath paying property taxes. So if they can take that down, they'll shift those taxes right back on us without a discussion of cutting the unlawful spending. We have a problem, and it's a large problem. It's distraction. And they're going to keep people distracted signing some of these petitions. And I'm not talking about the ones that Greg's talking about. I'm talking about the ones that will go before us at voting time. It's a distraction. But we have to understand the underlying concerns that are there. The group that's coming in tomorrow for that's fighting the DNR is bringing forward some information, which I think is absolutely critical to understanding how the dynamic is playing out there. It's not just about the dam issue over on the east side of the state, which is land squarely at the fault of Dana Nessel. Squarely. She was behind this, and the fault of the entire damn thing, I'm going to say it was Dana Nessel. Okay? We're going to have to look at this because the goal is to drain our inland lakes and make them unfit. It goes right back to the food supply again. And compromising our food supply and taking away our ability to farm, hunt, and fish. And if they can drain those lands and they can drain our food, the communo-fascist plan has always been to starve us out. That's exactly what the Line 5 problem is going across next to the bridge, and why Whitmer fought that. It was to starve the state out. And deprive us of energy so that that they can choke us out. And they're doing it by many methods. If we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, we can never fight and do the notices that Greg is talking about. The knowledge has to be together. We've got to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then step up and in a very lawful constitutional way, hold them accountable. That is my goal here, is to go through on base analysis. I'm a person who is an analyst of all of these things and can bring things forward through investigation. And so people can see the issues and know how to fight them. I'm really interested in hearing this group and talking to them some more, because it's an outstanding piece. And it's been a concern of mine since I was up at Camp Grayling in the Officers Club for hours, pouring through things and doing the investigation up there on what they're actually doing with our lands and the criminal organization that the DNR has turned into. They are not staying within their rails, and they are being used by the World Economic Forum to capture our land. And then we have captured assets that are running things like Axe My Tax up the flagpole because it's got a great headline, but behind it is some pretty nefarious things. So, and all I had to do is look at one of the big keys there was looking at who within that organization either misrepresented themselves or was given a comfy government job to go along with the effort. So once you see that, you can see the mechanisms by what's wrong there, and it's very serious. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless everyone you know, and God bless America. I'm going to do it again, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for being on, Greg. Stay on the line, please.
Thanks, Donna.